The scent of cedar and damp earth clung to everything in the remote mountain territories, to the weathered stone walls of the fortress, to the thick tapestries that blocked the bitter cold, to my daughter's blonde hair as she pressed her face against the hallway window, mesmerized by the creatures running through the woods below. "Mommy, why do their eyes shine like that?" Lily whispered, her breath creating fog on the glass. She was only 6 years old, with hair like spun gold and eyes far too curious for someone so small. "Because they're not like us, sweetheart," I murmured softly, pulling her away from the window. "We need to return to the kitchens. Lady Margaret doesn't appreciate when we wander off." But Lily had already spotted something else, a door left slightly open at the corridor's end, spilling warm lamplight across the dark stone floor. Before I could grab her, she'd slipped from my grasp and darted toward it with the fearless curiosity that constantly made my heart race. "Lily, stop!" I hissed, barely above a whisper. We were servants here, human servants in a fortress filled with wolves who could tear us apart without hesitation. 4 months we'd been surviving in these frigid northern mountains, accepting whatever work we could find after fleeing the southern territories. 4 months of keeping our heads lowered, our voices hushed, our existence as invisible as possible. My mother's final words echoed constantly in my mind, the last thing she'd told me before passing away. "Where there is no road, create one with kindness. Where there is no light, plant seeds of compassion. The mightiest barriers fall not to violence, but to a gentle hand that refuses to retaliate." The locket hanging around my neck, her locket, simple silver with a tiny dried flower inside, felt impossibly heavy as I rushed after my daughter. It was all I possessed from the life before my husband perished in the territorial conflicts, before we became wanderers, before I discovered that humans without pack protection were worth less than nothing in this world of ancient bloodlines and supernatural hierarchies. The room beyond stole my breath completely. It was a portrait gallery, walls covered with paintings stretching back what must have been centuries. Pack leaders, I realized, each more commanding than the last. But Lily was pointing at something, a portrait that hung somewhat apart from the others. Not a pack leader this time, but a woman, young, perhaps my age, with fair hair that captured the lamplight and eyes that held both sorrow and strength. And around her neck, my hand flew to my own throat. The woman in the painting wore an identical locket. "She looks just like you, Mommy," Lily said, her voice filled with wonder. "See? Same beautiful hair, same necklace. Is that Grandma?" The floor seemed to tilt beneath my feet. It couldn't be possible. My mother had never traveled to the Northern Territories, had never, but the resemblance was undeniable. "Who are you?" The voice came from behind us, deep and cold as the mountain streams outside. "And why are you in my private gallery?" I spun around, pushing Lily behind me instinctively. The man who filled the doorway was exactly what I'd expected, and somehow far worse, tall enough that he had to duck slightly beneath the frame, with dark hair that fell past his shoulders, and eyes that literally glowed with golden light in the dim room. This was the Alpha King himself, Damien Nightshade. "I'm deeply sorry, Your Majesty," I managed, my voice emerging steady despite the terror coursing through me. "We didn't mean to intrude. My daughter was curious, and I should have watched her more carefully. It won't happen again." His eyes moved from me to Lily, then past us to the portrait on the wall. Something changed in his face. The coldness cracked just for a second, replaced by something I couldn't identify. Shock, maybe, or recognition, or pain. "Where did you get that?" he asked quietly, nodding toward my neck. My hand went automatically to the locket. It was my mother's and her mother's before that. "It's been in my family for—" "What was your mother's name?" The question came sharp as a blade. "Rachel," I whispered, confusion mixing with my fear. "Rachel Monroe. But she died 3 years ago in—" "Get out." His voice was barely above a whisper, but it carried such command that I grabbed Lily's hand and started moving immediately. "Both of you. Now." We made it 3 steps before Lily's small voice piped up. "But mister, why is my mommy's picture on your wall?" Damien Nightshade stared at my daughter with an expression I'd never seen on anyone's face before, like he was looking at a ghost, a memory, a question whose answer might destroy him. When he spoke again, his voice was rough, almost broken. "That's not your mother's picture." His eyes found mine, and in them I saw something that made my heart stop. Recognition, longing, and a grief so deep it seemed bottomless. "That's my mate, my Luna, the woman who vanished 27 years ago, 4 months pregnant with my heir." The world seemed to stop spinning. 27 years ago, 4 months pregnant. "Your age," he said hoarsely. "Tell me your age." 27, I whispered. "I turned 27 last spring." The sound he made was barely human, something between a growl and a sob. "Rachel," he breathed. She called herself Rachel, but her real name was Rachel Shadowmere. She was everything, and they told me she was dead. The locket. "May I see it?" With shaking hands, I unclasped the locket and held it out. He took it like it might disintegrate at his touch, opening it with reverent care. Inside was a tiny purple flower. Mountain Nightshade, my mother had called it. "I gave this to her," he whispered, "the night I proposed." When he looked up, there were tears tracking down his face. She wore it every day. If what he was saying was true, if my mother had been his mate, if she'd been pregnant when she disappeared, then that meant no, I said, shaking my head. "No, that's not possible. My mother was human." "I'm human." "Your daughter," Damien interrupted, his eyes moving to Lily with sudden fierce intensity. "How old is she?" 6, I said automatically. "But she's human too. Her father was human. There's nothing." "How much does she know?" he asked quietly. "Nothing," I said firmly. "She knows nothing because there's nothing to know. We're servants here, Your Majesty. We're just trying to survive." "I don't think," he interrupted, his voice gaining strength. "I know. You're my daughter, Aurora. Rachel's daughter. Which makes Lily." He looked at my child with something like awe. "Lily is my granddaughter, my heir's heir." A howl split the night outside, long and mournful. Damien's head snapped toward the window. "Someone's coming," he said quickly. "The council. They can't see you here. Not yet." He pressed the locket back into my hand. "Go back to your quarters. Say nothing to anyone. I'll send for you tomorrow." But Lily had gone rigid beside me, her small hand crushing mine. When I looked down, her eyes had changed. They glowed with the same golden light as Damien's, bright and wild in the dim gallery. "Mommy," she whispered, her voice strange and distant. "Mommy, they're coming for us. The bad ones, they've been waiting for us to be found. If you're captivated by this story of hidden identities and dangerous secrets, wait until you see what happens next." Hours later, I couldn't sleep. Lily had finally drifted off. Her eyes faded back to normal, but she'd clung to me the entire way back to our quarters, silent in a way that terrified me. A soft knock at the door made me freeze. It was past midnight. Aurora Monroe. The voice was female, cultured. "The Alpha King requests your presence in his study. Immediately." I followed the guard through corridors I'd only cleaned, never traveled. The fortress revealed itself in layers. The working areas where humans labored, then the formal spaces where wolves conducted business, and finally the private quarters where only the highest-ranking pack members dwelled. Damien stood beside a massive desk covered in papers and maps. He looked older than he had hours ago, wearier. "Sit," he said finally. "Please. I know you must be frightened, but I give you my word that no harm will come to you or your daughter while you're under my protection." "Why did you summon me? You said tomorrow." "I couldn't wait." He pulled out a folder, opened it to reveal yellowed papers covered in elegant handwriting. letters from your mother, written in the months before she disappeared." He held out a page, and with trembling hands I took it. The handwriting was my mother's. "My dearest daughter, if you're reading this, then I've failed to keep you safe, and for that I am so very sorry. Your father is Damien Nightshade, Alpha King of the Northern Territories. I loved him with a desperation that frightened me. But when I discovered I was pregnant with you, that happiness lasted only 4 days. On the 5th day, I overheard a conversation I was never meant to hear. Council members discussing how to eliminate the human problem before it could produce an heir, discussing how to make it look like an accident. They were planning to kill us, my darling. You and me both." I looked up at Damien, saw my own shock and horror reflected in his face. "I never knew," he said hoarsely. "I swear to you, I never knew they were planning. If I had known, I would have torn apart anyone who threatened her. But she didn't trust you to protect her," I said quietly. "She trusted herself more. She ran." He flinched. "Yes, and I spent 27 years believing she was dead. I searched for months. We found her dress, torn and bloody by the river. The council told me to accept it, to move on, but I couldn't. The mate bond. When you find the one person whose soul fits yours, losing them is like losing half of yourself." "Why did you come here?" he asked. "If she'd warned you, because—" "We were starving," I said. "Because after Michael died, his family blamed me and drove us out. Because humans without pack protection are nothing. Because winter was coming and Lily was getting sick and I had no other choice. I would have walked into a dragon's den if it meant feeding my daughter. Your granddaughter." Something shifted in his expression, respect maybe, or recognition. "Tell me about Lily. Tell me everything." So I did. I told him about the strange things I'd noticed, the too quick healing, the way animals responded to her, the dreams she described of running on 4 legs through forests she'd never seen. "And tonight?" he asked quietly. When her eyes changed, that was the first time I couldn't deny. "Because blood knows blood," Damien said. "She carries the alpha line. It means she'll be in terrible danger once the council learns of her existence." "Then we'll leave tonight," I said. "No. Running didn't save Rachel. It just delayed the inevitable. By morning, rumors will be spreading. The council will demand answers. Then what do? We fight." He leaned forward, intensity burning in his golden eyes, but not with claws and teeth, with truth, with legitimacy. "I'm going to acknowledge you, Aurora, publicly, as my daughter, my heir. I'm going to make it impossible for anyone to touch you or Lily without declaring war on me directly. As they'll never accept it," I whispered. "A human heir. Let them try. I've spent 27 years ruling alone, compromising. They took that from me once. I won't let them take it from me again." He took my hand. "I failed your mother. I won't fail you. I won't fail Lily. Even if it costs me the crown, you're more important." My mother had chosen to run, and it had cost her everything. Maybe it was time to try a different path. "Okay," I whispered. "We'll stay. We'll face them together. Are you ready to discover what happens when Aurora and Lily face the council? Keep reading because the stakes are about to get even higher. The great. Hall smelled of pine smoke and tension. I stood behind a heavy curtain with Lily pressed against my side as we listened to the assembly gather beyond. Hundreds of wolves filled the ancient space, their voices a low rumble of curiosity and confusion. Damien appeared through a side door, dressed in formal regalia that transformed him into something mythical. Black leather and silver wolf emblems, a ceremonial cloak, and on his head a crown of twisted silver. He looked every inch the Alpha King. He knelt before Lily. "Hello, little one. Do you know who I am?" "You're the king," Lily said solemnly, "and Mommy says you might be my grandpa. Are you?" A smile ghosted across his severe features. "I am, and I'm very happy to meet you properly, Lily. What you're about to see might be confusing, maybe even frightening, But I need you to be brave. Can you do that?" "I'm always brave," Lily declared. He stood, offering his hand to Lily. "Walk with me." She took it without hesitation. Damien led us through the curtain and onto the raised platform. The moment we appeared, the rumble of conversation died. Hundreds of pairs of eyes locked onto us, golden, amber, green, all glowing with that unmistakable wolf light. "My people," he began, his voice carrying through the hall with natural authority. 27 years ago, I lost my mate. Rachel Shadowmere was human, and that made her a target. When she disappeared, I was told she'd been killed by rogues. I mourned her. I searched for her. And eventually, I accepted that she was gone. His hand tightened on my shoulder. I was wrong. Rachel wasn't killed. She ran, fled from a threat so terrible, she felt she had no choice but to fake her own death and disappear. And she did so while carrying my child. The hall erupted. Gasps, shouts, denials. "Silence," Damien commanded. "This is Aurora Monroe, daughter of Rachel Shadowmere. My daughter, my heir. And this," he placed his other hand on Lily's head, "is Lily, my granddaughter. Both carry my bloodline. Both are under my protection." One of the council members stood, an ancient wolf with silver hair and cold eyes. "Your Majesty, these are extraordinary claims that require extraordinary proof." "Are you calling me a liar, Councillor Thornwick?" Damien's voice dropped to something dangerous. "I have Rachel's own words written in her hand explaining exactly why she fled and from whom." Thornwick went pale. Others began standing, stepping forward. "I volunteer mine," said Sophia the guard. "Your Majesty, I've served as your personal guard for 15 years. The child carries your scent. Faint, filtered through human blood, but unmistakable. She is of your line." More wolves stood in support. I can confirm it. As can I. One by one, wolves vouched for us, as the pack instinctively recognized what the council tried to deny. "The pack has spoken," Damien said. "Blood recognizes blood. Aurora and Lily are mine. They are ours. As of today, Aurora holds the title of Crown Princess." Lily tugged on my hand. When I looked down, she was staring at Thornwick with an intensity that seemed far too old for her small face. "Mommy," she whispered, "that one smells wrong, like when milk goes bad. My blood went cold." Damien's eyes narrowed. "Lily," he said carefully, "what else do you smell?" "Fear," she said simply. And, "Mommy, what's the word for when you want to hurt someone but pretend you don't?" "Malice," I whispered. "That." Lily pointed at Thornwick, then at 2 other council members. "They all smell like that. Like bad milk and wanting to hurt us." The hall had gone deadly silent. A 6-year-old child with no training had just identified threats using abilities she shouldn't even have. "Out of the mouths of children," Damien said softly. "Councillor Thornwick, Councillor Helena, Councillor Marcus. I believe we need to have a private conversation about events 27 years past. Want to know what happens next? The conspirators have been exposed, but the real danger is just beginning." 3 days passed in a blur. Our new rooms in the royal wing were larger than anything I'd imagined, with windows that looked out over mountains painted gold by the afternoon sun. Lily delighted in everything. The 4-poster bed, the books, the window seat perfect for watching wolves run below. But the council had been suspiciously quiet, too quiet. When Damien summoned me to the North Tower, my stomach tightened. He waited in a circular room lined with windows, maps spread across a central table. "News of your existence has already spread," he said. 3 packs have sent congratulations. 2 have sent concerns about a half-human heir weakening my position. "Then maybe you should reconsider this," I said quietly. "Lily and I can disappear again." "Don't." The word came sharp. "Don't suggest that, not ever." He moved closer. "I've spent 27 years living half a life. You and Lily are not a sacrifice. You're the reason I remember why I became Alpha, to protect those who couldn't protect themselves." "The council?" I said. The 3 who threatened my mother. What happened to them? They're confined to their estates, pending investigation. But they're clever, Aurora. They've hidden their tracks well. A howl split the evening air. Long, urgent, alarming. That's the perimeter alarm, he said. Something's breached the territory. Fear shot through me. Lily, we ran. We burst into my chambers to find Sophia standing protectively in front of Lily's door, her eyes glowing gold. Report, Damien commanded. Rogues, Sophia said tersely. A dozen at least. Coordinated attack on the eastern wall. They're trying to draw attention away from something else. A distraction, I breathed, while someone moves inside. Damien pulled out a device, spoke rapidly. Lock down the royal wing. Triple the guard. Find me Counselor Thornwick. Lily stepped around Sophia. Grandpa, the bad milk people are trying to hurt us, aren't they? Yes, little wolf, but they won't succeed. Lily walked to me and wrapped her, arms around my waist. Don't be scared, Mommy, we're stronger together, Grandma told me. My blood went cold. What did you say? Grandma, Lily repeated. She comes sometimes in my dreams. She says we're safe now that we found our pack. She says the poison flower has its purpose, and sometimes love means letting go so others can hold on tighter. That was my mother speaking through my daughter, teaching even from beyond death. We stay, I said suddenly. Whatever's coming, whatever the council tries, we face it here, together. Damien's eyes met mine. Together, he agreed. Outside, more howls rose, the pack mobilizing to protect its own. And for the first time in my life, those howls didn't sound like danger. They sounded like family. The attack lasted 3 hours. When Damien finally returned, there was blood on his clothes and exhaustion etched into his face. But there was also satisfaction. We captured 5 of the rogues alive, he said. They talked. They were hired to create a distraction, while someone attempted to reach the royal wing. We caught him, one of Thornwick's personal guards, carrying a silver blade coated in wolfsbane poison, enough to kill a human or a half-blood child. They'd tried to murder my daughter. Where is he now? I asked quietly. In the dungeons, along with Thornwick, Helena, and Marcus. We found correspondence arranging tonight's attack. There will be a trial tomorrow. Don't miss the dramatic conclusion where justice is served and a family is finally whole. The trial took place at dawn. The 3 former council members stood in chains, silver that burned their wrists. The guard who'd carried the poisoned blade stood beside them, his head bowed. Damien presided from his throne, but he'd insisted I sit beside him in the chair that had remained empty for 27 years. The Luna's throne. Lily sat on my lap. The evidence was presented, the letters arranging the attack, the payments to rogues, the guard's testimony. But it was the oldest, evidence that sealed their fate, a journal from Thornwick's estate, dated 27 years ago, detailing the plot to eliminate Rachel and her unborn child. We did what was necessary, Thornwick snarled. A human Luna weakens the pack. You should have stayed hidden like your mother. My mother, I said, standing slowly, had the sense to know that a pack led by men like you wasn't worth staying for. But she also had the courage to keep me alive despite your attempts. And now her granddaughter sits here as proof that you failed. I walked toward them with my head high. You see weakness when you look at us, but you're wrong. My mother survived 27 years in hiding. I've buried my husband, fled from those who wanted us dead, and walked into the one place I was taught to fear, because my daughter needed me to be strong. And Lily is 6 years old and can already sense threats you couldn't hide. We're not weak. We're survivors. And that makes us more dangerous than any pureblood who's never had to fight for their place in the world. The hall erupted in howls, approval, support. Damien stood. The evidence is clear. By pack law, I could execute you all. But my mate believed in mercy, so I offer you exile. You have until sunset. If any of you are ever seen here again, The sentence will be death. They were led away. As the hall cleared, Sophia approached with others I'd come to know. The pack is planning a celebration tonight, a proper welcome. That night, I wore a dress that had belonged to my mother, blue as midnight with silver embroidery. Lily wore a smaller version, her golden hair crowned with flowers. Damien wore no crown, just simple clothes and a smile. The celebration spilled into the courtyards with bonfires lighting the night. Lily's laughter rang pure and joyful, the sound of a child who finally felt safe. "She's happy," Damien said, appearing at my side. "I haven't heard laughter like that since before Rachel left." "Thank you," I said quietly, "for all of this." "Thank you," he countered, "for trusting me, for giving me a second chance to be the father I should have been all along." He led me to the gallery. Beside my mother's portrait now hung another, newly commissioned. It showed a man and woman standing together, and in the foreground 2 small figures played among nightshade flowers. "Us," I breathed. "All of us. Together. A family," Damien said softly. "The one we were always meant to be. I can't give you back the years you lost, but I can give you every day forward, every protection, every resource, every ounce of love I have left, if you'll accept it." "I accept," I whispered, "not just for me, but for Lily, for the pack, for the mother who couldn't stay but never stopped loving us, for the father who never gave up hope." He pulled me into an embrace. Outside, wolves howled in celebration, and in my mind I heard another voice join them, my mother's voice, finally at peace, knowing her daughter and granddaughter had found their way home. The nightshade flower had served its purpose. Poison transformed into medicine, danger into safety, loss into love. We were exactly where we belonged, finally forever home. If this story moved you, imagine discovering even more tales of hidden heirs, forbidden love, and supernatural families reunited against all odds. Subscribe now because there's so much more where this came from.